Afternoon, everybody. This is Jason Flame, host of the Master Motivation Podcast. And thank you for joining us here live, or if you're watching a little bit later on the replay on YouTube at Master Motivation Podcast. Now, today we've got a special guest. We have Laura White, who is an inspirational speaker, business strategist, and life coach. She is also a leadership coach, speaker, and trainer with the John Maxwell Team. She is the author of 2 books. Her first book is The Prosperous Leader, Walking in the Wisdom of God. And what's the second one?
And the other one is The Master of Marriages. And that is an anthology that I am involved in where there was 30 authors. And it's all about a 30-day devotion of everybody sharing their secret sauce of how to have a great marriage.
I love it. And it's got master in the name. Now, her passion for the last 12 years is helping women online, entrepreneurs make more money with easy, simple strategies without using ADS. She believes everyone has a purpose and why in life, and helps you live your dream and vision. Through her coaching, programs, and memberships, Laura equips others to embrace success, overcoming limiting beliefs, and become the influencer and leader you are destined to live. She has been on TV, radio, doing live events, and in magazines. And here she is, Miss Laura White. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Jason, for having me. I'm so excited to be on your podcast.
Yeah, reading your bio, I'm a little nervous now because you've done so many live events. I hope I do you the justice as the host today and presenting your story in the best light possible.
Oh, yes, you will, because I've already been seeing your other podcasts and you do marvelous.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, listen, what I'd love to know first, and just to get us started, is what has motivated you to lead this life of service to others and helping people with marriages and living their best life? What's your motivation?
You know, you use the word master, so I'm using it on mine. So I always tell people my mess is my message, but today my mess is my masterpiece. So I love doing what I'm doing because it was a mess for me at one time, and I don't want anybody to struggle like I did. I want to be able to give them the tools and the strategies and have a community where we can grow together and that you're not alone. So everything I do is all about what I went through, and I want to help women grow.
That's amazing. You're the second person that I've heard say your mess is your message. I was just speaking with Rob Wentz earlier, and that quote came up. So I really love that. I wrote that down last time. I'm thinking about this. We need to talk about these things.
When you have a strong word or saying, it's like, take it, but I was on his podcast and told him.
All right.
It is true. It's why not? Most people, when you talk to, is something that they've gone through and now they're helping others. That's the bottom line when you ask most people.
Well, and some people hide their mess, right? And because they're ashamed of it, or because they don't know how to look at it a different way. You follow what I'm saying? Like, yes. Some people just hold that in, and where I have learned that my biggest mistakes have been my best lessons, specifically for my children, right? Because like having, 2 young adults is 21 and 18 now, but throughout their whole life, like I just kept looking at every situation and going, man, I know I made those mistakes, and a lot of parents do this. I made those mistakes. I want to help you maybe try to avoid those mistakes if I can, and make that my message and my lessons. And my kids were always really good about going, oh boy, Dad's teaching another lesson today, but I think it's true.
It's true. One thing about, I always tell people, if you're not failing, you're not growing. And so failing is an opportunity. So we all fail at something, or we could do better. I use the word failure because it's a good thing, because that's how we grow. It's allowing us to mature and to grow and to learn from our opportunities. So I count it as a challenge. I'm like, bring it on. I'm ready. Because if I'm not growing, I'm not growing.
That's right. That's right. I mean, you have to, if you're not trying to do something, you aren't growing, like you said. But we're going to go through these trials and tribulations, and we're going to fail a lot. And again, just like people are very hesitant to show their mistakes or show their mess, people are afraid to fail, thinking that that's the end of the line, where in fact that failure was just a lesson to catapult you to the next step.
Yes, that's true. And another thing too, Jason, that I want to say is it's all about also perception. So if you are coming across that you don't fail and you've got it all together, then we're not telling the truth for one thing, and we're not authentic. People want authentic. They want,
Hmm.
I do lives. I don't have a podcast yet, but all my lives are going to a podcast. But I'm like, I don't cut corners or whatever. It's like, it is what it is. If I fumble, I'm like, oh, sorry, I just washed my mouth and I don't know what to do with my tongue. It's fun about it. It's I'm authentic. I'm going to say it like it is. I used to be bottled up and not share all the things that were happening when I was growing up with my father, that I was like, when I did that, I didn't have the friendships that I did when I started coming out of my cocoon and
Hmm.
really being my authentic self and saying, listen, I don't have it all together. I still don't have it all together, but I'm authentic, I'm real, and what I say is true. So
Right. Well, and it just helps to be more relatable and have a deeper connection with people when you are being authentic, when you are being transparent, you're being yourself, because sometimes we're put in these positions, especially as leaders and influencers, if you will. We're put in on this pedestal to where, well, they don't make mistakes, or they don't, and you expect so
mhm.
much of yourself that you just say, hey, like, like you said, I I make mistakes. I'm real. I don't have it all together yet. I'm learning. We're learning together. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all going through life together, right? Some people are here. Some people are here. Some people have done this. Some people have done that, and we can all really learn from each other. But from an early age, we have this stigma of just the way society works, and this social distortion, especially with social media,
Yeah.
right? Where everybody, you post everything good on Facebook. And I actually had a friend who commented one time. He's like, I said something about a failure that I had, and he's all like, I never see people post a failure on Facebook. Everybody posts the good stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, but I mean, that's my life. Like, that's just part of what I do. So I do think that is truly so important.
And I bet you have him as a follower for sure, because you're being real, and Facebook is deceiving, because, or any social media is deceiving, because people do portray themselves as perfect and they have it all together. But I get them for coaching and they're like, "Oh no, that's just this, but I'm really this."
So listen, I'd love to learn more about your background and your childhood and kind of growing up, and walk us through this path of your life, and maybe point out some of those mistakes, some of those challenges, some of those failures that people could relate to and understand.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking, Jason. So when I was growing up, I grew up in a family of 9, and so 6 other siblings, and I was the oldest daughter, middle child. And the reason I stress that is because that's who I am today because of that. Because I was the oldest daughter, there was a lot of responsibility with me of doing a lot around the house, and I had to raise my 2 sisters, so I didn't have as normal childhood as everybody else. Like, on the weekends, I'd have to stay home and raise them while my mom was off with the boys and doing football. But, I learned a lot about how to communicate, how to connect, and how to relate to people, because you would think 7 kids raised by the same environment, same parents, would be similar a little bit, but we're all so different. And so I had to
Yep.
learn how to wheel and deal with this person and wheel and deal with that person and get
Hmm.
it done. But so that's the beginning of the stages. Now, I was very shy and timid because I had so much responsibility and I was trying to be a kid as myself. And so I was always trying to be perfect and help mom and dad. And I wasn't really taking care of myself. So that led into shyness, then led into, okay, when I really started to figuring out who I was, and everybody started coming to me with their issues and their problems. And I'm thinking, oh, this is cool. So that's how I started growing up. I left home, went to college. After college, I went straight into sales. And that came so easy for me because I learned how to listen, communicate, connect. And so it just came really easy. Even the jobs that I was in, the companies I was with, I should say, I was always like the top 3 in sales, because I learned a lot. I read books, I went to workshops, took classes, and really went into sales, and I was good at it. But that led to leaving and to going to what I am now. But I want to give you the opportunity, if you want to ask any questions from this state on, because of growing up in a family where I had to step up and be like a second mom and do a lot of the things for everybody. That's who I am today.
Hmm. Tell me, what was the range in age of your siblings?
They were 7 kids in 11 years. And so nobody was more than a year and a half apart.
Okay.
It was pretty close. So we all kind of helped each other out, and that's for sure. The funny thing is we couldn't afford, this is really funny that I want to add, is we couldn't afford a big, huge table because a huge table back then was a lot of money. So my dad made the table and it was pretty awesome. It was blue, but it was huge. And we had, different kinds of chairs, but then we also had like a picnic chair table, no backing and stuff. But it didn't matter. We all got together. We all had dinner together. We all talked, and it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, I can relate a little bit when you said having to take care of siblings. I have two younger siblings. My youngest brother is 7 years younger than me. It's not a huge gap,
Right.
but it was big enough to where our relationship was very different
Mhm.
than the relationship I had with our middle brother, who was only 4 years younger than me. We were kind of in high school together. We grew up liking the same things, but the youngest one, I felt a lot of responsibility to take care of him
Mhm.
from a very young age. I'd be picking him up from school. He'd have to come with me. That's how he got involved in teaching martial arts. We both own martial arts schools,
Oh,
and
wow.
so I'd pick him up, take him with me. We'd go teach, and we spent a lot of time together. And then our relationship grew stronger because of having the same love for martial arts. But again, relating to that
Mhm.
fact of taking care of the siblings, and sometimes that's a hard one because you feel like a parent. And I can remember him telling me, "You're not my parent. You're not my mom. You're not my dad." And my parents reminded me, "You're not his dad. You're his big brother." And I'm like, I'm watching him all the time, picking him up and taking him to do all the things. Like I felt that responsibility. So I understand that. What was your relationship with, all of the siblings? They're all probably very different.
Yes, we're all very, very different. I was going to tell you, we're so close that we're all on a text together. We lost both parents, but we're all together and we get together about 4 times a year. So we've always been very, very close. You kind of
Hmm.
always have like your favorite, but we're all really close in we really help each other, and we're there to support each other, help each other, pray for each other. It's a really close bond. Most people don't see that. And I think that's how our parents raised us, is to really communicate and get along. So it's always been, since I can remember, that we've always been close. Yes, so my brothers would fight and they'd be mad or jealous or something, but we'd make up and stuff, but we're a really
Right.
close family.
What are some of the values and beliefs that your parents instilled in you as a child that you still hold on to today? Or is there anything that maybe you rebelled against or changed as you became an adult?
Okay, you're gonna really get to know me. I'm a rule person, so I was always that kid that they didn't have to set rules because I just followed them. But I had two brothers that got in a lot of trouble. So what they instilled with is be true, authentic, and to be truthful, not to lie. We were raised in a Christian home, so our faith was very huge to us and still is to every single one of us. And the values of what we believe. What are your values? And that's family, that's togetherness, that's faith, and that's believing. Those were the biggest values that they instilled us. They did instill us hard work. Money didn't grow on trees, but I had to get over
Mhm,
that because as an entrepreneur, it's all about strategies and not working 10 hours a week, putting things in place. And that's one of the things I teach. But really working and not sitting around doing nothing. Give it your all and everything that you.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And now, did you play sports? Did you have hobbies? Were there things that you liked to do as a kid and throughout high school?
Yes, my mom was a PE teacher. My dad went to college for football, and so we were all athletic. And that's the funny thing about sitting around at the table. We'd eat, and we'd all run in all different directions to all of our sports. So every one of us were in sports. I was always into running, so I did track or cross country, or I would do short marathons. So I was
Mm,
always a runner. I did do volleyball too, but my big one was track and cross country, and I held the 880 record in my school for 6 years. So I was very proud of that.
nice. Congratulations. That's awesome. Um, I was never a runner myself, but as an adult, I really started to appreciate running more because I love being outdoors. I grew up, kind of in a rural area, so we were always outside building forts and always kind of playing and being outside. Um, I found Spartan races. As a matter of fact, my youngest brother introduced me to Spartan racing, and
Okay.
it's an obstacle course race, so it's not like your typical marathon, but it had all these climbing the rope and going through the mud and all, and it just I started to love running because I knew I had one of those races coming up, and I just do a little more running in the gym or a little more running, out on the street, but I always said that I hated running, and I didn't hate running. I hated what I was doing while I was running, which was nothing. There was no like excitement to it for me. I didn't have a goal per se. So, but I did learn to love running more later when I started getting in those obstacle races. A lot of fun.
I love running. To me, it was, well, when I started reaching like 10 miles, to me, it was like a high, but that
Hmm.
was my time to get away. Maybe they like this so much because there was so much chaos at the house. I mean, it was never a dull moment, trust me. But that was my time to get out and to think and stuff. So I liked it for that reason.
Hmm.
And it just, like I said, it just came easy for me. And so, but there was times that when people say a running high, boy, I got it all the time.
Hmm.
It was awesome. The one thing that wasn't fun is when you're running states and you have shin splints and you've got to run 2 miles
Oh,
fast. That was murder, and that was mind control because it's like I can't run, but I have to.
right, right, right. I mean, and how many different ways have you applied that to your life since then,
Um,
where you didn't want to do something, but you got to do it anyway, right? And
all
we'll
this
get to more. We'll get to more about that. Tell me about the plans from high school to college as a career. What were your goals? And I ask this question a lot. Did you go to college? And if you did you go because you wanted to or because you thought you had to?
I thought I had to because that was like what my parents raised us because they both went to colleges, go from high school to college. I just didn't really know. I had a couple ideas what I wanted to do, but I just went, got a degree. And then from there, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go into sales. And so I kind of thought that was what I actually did some of that while I was going to college. And so it started out as telemarketing, but then I joined companies that wasn't telemarketing. And like I said, it was something that I loved. And everybody always asked, I kept asking me everywhere I went, it was like, how are you doing the sales? How are you getting? What's that? And I
Mhm.
noticed that everybody would be huddled around. I'm like, what are you doing? What's your secret sauce? And I would say it. So that's how I got
That's great. That's great. Now, you said that you were shy and timid, and that you had to you felt like you had to be perfect, if I quoted you correctly.
started.
How does that affect you now with that idea of perfection? That was kind of ingrained in you as a child or as a young adult. How does that affect you now?
Well, the one thing I didn't bring up, Jason, is my parents were very loving. They hugged us. They were always there for support. But my dad had a little bit of dysfunction, and he was an alcoholic. He wasn't a drunk alcoholic. He was an alcoholic that 2 drinks would change his personality, so he would turn into rage. So I didn't know whether I
Mm,
was going to be yelled at or hit. Mostly my brothers got most of the trauma. But because of that and all the responsibilities that, like, get in here and help me cook. Well, I got to study for my test. No, get in here and help me. You just did what dad said to do. And
mhm,
so because of that, there was that fear and that timid and shy, and I didn't want to speak up. And then in
mhm,
middle school, someone said something to me that changed everything. And I just came out of my shell and I noticed, well, and it was also one time, Jason, that I sat in bed and I go, I don't want to feel this way. I was all up in knots. I was fearful, I was scared, and I just wasn't happy, and I didn't want to live like that. And it just unfolded. It wasn't just like one time thing. It just gradually happened because I had prayed for it, and it did. And I just started coming out of my shell, and I noticed because I was more freer that people were coming to me for their issues and their problems, and so I knew I was a coach before I knew what a coach was because everybody
mm.
today, all my siblings still come to me to, like, figure out this, why don't you figure out that? Let's all get together. And it was just something that my why is always contributing to helping people to do better. So
Mhm.
that's how it kind of all happened out.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, let's give a shout out to Gabby. Gabby's watching, says
Yay!
hello
Hi,
from
Gabby.
Canada. Always here to support the show and support everybody that's on the show. So I appreciate you, Gabby. Thanks for being on today. By the way, if anybody's watching live and you have any questions, let us know because we'd love to hear your questions. And I'm sure Laura will be more than happy to answer your questions. So drop them in the comments, please. We were talking about college and sales and kind of moving on. You were pretty successful in sales. And then what was the next step from there?
So I was always the top third, in the top three of sales in the companies that I was in. The last one, I was there for about 13 years, and I knew God was stirring something inside me. To be honest, like, okay, I knew there's more, but I kept saying in my head, "No, I'm making great money." Because 17 years ago, I was making six figures, and I'm like, "No, I'm not leaving. I'm staying here until I'm 65." And I just kept like, well, why don't I go get this coaching, and why don't I get leadership and health and life coach and all this other stuff? And then sure enough, I noticed that things were happening in the building, and without getting into legal stuff, there was a lot of happening in the building, and I knew I had to leave. I kept getting sick. And so I just said, that's it. I'm done. And I told my husband I'm leaving. He goes, what? We had to change our lives because I'm like, what? And so I said goodbye. And as soon as I said goodbye, because I knew God wanted me to do that for the last 4 years, but I would not leave. But when I had no choice, that I was tired of getting sick, when I left, it was the matter of all the doors open for coaching. And like I said, I'd already been coaching and mentoring people and women. And my husband and I had a support group in our house, at our church and stuff. I knew that it was like, wow. And everything started opening up. And that's when I started out as a life coach, before I became a business strategist. And I started as a coach, and I started coaching, and I was like, wow, I've already been doing this for a while. This is coming easy. And so I was like motivated by what I've already been doing, and really helping and motivating people to live the life that they want by covering limiting beliefs and putting boundaries down and really setting goals to what they want. It's amazing how people say, I want to have a better life. Well, what's your goal? Well, I don't know. They would, trying to figure all that out. It was pretty funny, but that's how it all began.
So, what are some of the first questions when you're talking with someone? Because I come across this a lot. What's your goal? I don't know. I don't have. People say, I don't really feel like I have a purpose, or I'm not sure what my why is. What are some of the questions that you ask to draw some of those things out?
Well, first of all, I'm saying, well, where are you at? I mean, that's the first thing people want to know, because they can always tell you where you're at. Well, okay, well, life is good, life sucks, whatever it is. So
Hmm.
where are you at? Where would you like to go? And some of them always have. Most people always say, "Well, I want to be happier," or I want a better job, or I want a better marriage," whatever that might be. So where are you, and where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself? Here's another one. Where do you see yourself in a year? And most people could say, well, I want to have a great marriage, or I want to do more. I'm not doing enough. And I'm kind of stuck. So the one thing they always would say, I'm stuck. Well, tell me what that looks like. What are you stuck in? I mean, and then if they stay quiet, I'll stay quiet first. And if they still stay quiet, I'm like, where are you stuck? I mean, is it relationships? Is it goals? Is it money? Is it job, career? What is it? Then they're going to start speaking. So that's how it's those questions. A good leader, a good coach is one that asks good questions. So you ask those questions, and you dive deep, and, well, tell me what that looks like, and tell me where you're at, and tell me where you want to go, or tell me about something that you've always wanted to do. What's your passion? And you get
Hmm.
into their passion of what they like, because they might not be doing it. I've had doctors, dentists, people come to me and they're like, well, I already got my degree. I'm not changing that, but can you help
Right.
me find my passion? Like, let me figure that out. And so then I'll start getting their why. Now, how do I figure out their why? Well, I have everybody that I work with go through the DISC assessment and the why assessment. The DISC helps us to understand your strengths, what motivates you, what stresses you out, and what are those strengths and your values, because that's who you are. And then the why assessment helps us to find out what your why, your how, and your what is. Well, my why is I love to contribute to make people's lives better. And then your why and your how is simplify and make everything simplified. And then I'm helping people, to get better. So that's really to get started. And that's a lot in a
Hmm.
session to figure that out.
Sure, and I'm sure that that's over multiple sessions getting that
Yeah.
information, all the way through. The one question that you asked in the thing that helps me is, what when you say, what does that look like? What does
Mhm.
that look like? What's the vision?
Mhm.
And then you start asking for time frames.
Yes.
For me in my profession, martial arts, we have a very systematic way of, if your goal is to become a black belt,
Right.
well, you've got to come to class and you have to earn stripes on your current belt, and then you got to earn the next belt. And then if you continue that process, that's what black belt is. But what do you see yourself doing as a black belt? Do you want to teach others? Do you want to compete? And you start looking at that. So I love that vision. I love taking that, and I'm a huge like movie person too, right? Like I like watching the story unfold, and sometimes people have a hard time unfolding their own story in front of their eyes. Now, what do you say to people that maybe they're not stuck, but they're in a really good place, right? And they're looking for a way to challenge themselves, right? So you brought up, doctors, lawyers, they've got the degree, they've probably got the money, they've got some stability there, they've got the good marriage, what kind of questions do you ask to help them challenge themselves?
They don't usually, well, I wouldn't say they don't come to me because they don't want to be challenged, but it's like, I have to know what their vision or their destiny is, and it might take several questions for them to get there, but it's like, where do you want to go? What's your vision? Here's a good one that I usually always ask that I said before is, where do you see yourself in a year? And so I want to challenge them. So what have you done to get there so far? What do you feel like you haven't done that you could do that will get you there? And those are the questions will get their mind thinking. And they're like, wow. So, and then usually I'll say, so why do you want to hire me as a coach? I know we're talking like a lot about life now. I work a lot more with business, but it's one of those things. Well, what do you see working with me? What do you want to accomplish working with me? I mean, you have to ask them because you want to be able to get them to where they want. And then that happens like, well, this is what I want. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's go for it. How do you think we should get there? I mean, you got to push them to the limit. So I'm pushing them to get them to think because they're like, oh gosh, I never thought this much.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes that's a hard part because, we are going through life and doing our day to day, and we've got goals, and sometimes they get thrown on the back burner, and we're just kind of pushing forward. But a coach is someone that can push you a little bit outside that comfort zone, ask the questions that maybe you're afraid to ask yourself, or the answer, but you don't do anything about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that's that for me in my business, I had a coach who I was already in business for 10 years. I started my business at 19 years old.
Wow.
And my business was at a point where I knew that my family was growing. What I was doing at that point was not going to take me to the next level. So I sought after a coach. And this coach pushed every bit of my limits. I mean, there were so many times where I was like, I could never do that. That's just not going to happen. But he would ask the right questions, and then what are your goals? Okay, let's break down these goals and let's analyze, all these different things. So yeah, I think this is awesome. And hey, quick shout out to Dennis LaRue. Say what's up to Dennis. He was a great guest too.
Yes, he's awesome. He's awesome. What I do is I challenge them. I actually have them read a book. So I have them read a book. And what I incorporate in my coaching is journaling. I mean, you have to brain dump your ideas or your thoughts, whether they be negative, whether they be positive, and let's deal with them. But you got to break that down. So writing it down, number one, challenge them that always give them, I call growth work, not homework, every week. When they come back, we're going to talk about that. And then I'm going to give them something else to do. So read a book, exactly. Journal. Yeah, it's true. All these books over here, this whole row is John Maxwell, but read a book because it's good. It's going to teach you a lot of different things, the techniques and tips and tricks and hacks that the books have. But it's going to, it's going to get your mind thinking about other things, but really pushing them to their goals. And what you had said, Jason, was goal. Your coach gave you goals. Yes, goals. And they might think it's too big. But my real big thing is people can't accomplish it, don't think they can because it's too big. So let's break it down. I want you to read this book. When do you want to read it? In 30 days. All right. So how many pages are in a book? and in this particular book. And then I'm like, okay, well, how many pages is that a week and then a day? And that's what you have to break down in everything that you do. I have them, I'll like, one guy says, well, I don't know. I want to do better in finances and this and that. I'm like, well, where's your money going? I don't know. All right, great. I got a business plan. I got a whole funnel. I want you to fill that out and have it ready by the time you come back. And they're like, whoa, what? And I'm like, yeah. And so he's like, wow, I'm spending all this money. It's going out everywhere. And it's like, you just see their light bulbs go on. And it's the simple things that we know, but yet sometimes we have to get back to the basics, right?
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Well, I love that you brought up books because I want to talk about your books. But I also love the fact that you're a Maxwell Leadership member. I'm currently reading and have been reading actually for almost 2 years now. My daily read is the Maxwell 365 daily reader. Every morning, that's my first read. And usually a Bible passage will be my second read. And then in the afternoon, I have another couple books that I'm working on. A friend of mine wrote one, so I'm helping him. And so I want to talk about your books though first, and then talk about the Maxwell Leadership. What gave you the inspiration to write your first book, and how did you get started?
Oh my gosh. I knew I had 3 books inside me. I knew that God gave it to me. I haven't written one of those yet, but I knew I wanted to do it. I was in a mastermind, a paid mastermind, and the coach says, you know what? We're all going to do our first book and it's going to be easy and we're going to do a devotion. And I'm like, okay, let's go. We can do it, like, ask questions and do it together. And so I started doing mine, which is the Prosperous Leader, Walking in the Wisdom of God. And it's a 30-day devotion. And what I did, because I'm real big on leadership, is I took a scripture from the Bible, and then I talked about it in leadership form. Then I have you say a prayer over yourself. And then on the other side, when you open it up, on the other side, it's going to be an application. So every 30 days is a totally different question. Like, what is God showing you through this? Or how did you interpret this? And how are you going to implement it into your life? And then I give you a couple pages to write, because I believe that so many people nowadays are inputting so much information and they're not outputting. So what are you applying? You can learn, but unless you apply it and use it, we're not going to grow. And so that is one indication of why I did what I do. So it's scriptures all about leadership, and it's all about how to apply it and be a better leader in your life.
Awesome. And where if people are watching this, where can they find your book?
Oh my gosh, it's in about 40 different places. You can go to Ingram Sparks. You can go to Amazon and get my book, The Prosper. Now there's another one, but mine says at the bottom, Walking in the Wisdom of God. And I hope that you love it. I know that you will. What am I saying? I know that you will. You'll love it. And I hope you can get it.
Excellent. Well, let's talk about the second book.
And the second book is a Master of Marriages. Let me make sure. Yeah, Masters of Marriages. A relationship devotion for couples. And they knew I had been married a long time. So I've been married 37 years, and people were like, whoa, I can learn from you. And so they asked us to share a nugget or something that they have used to keep their marriage going and alive. And I could talk about it now. Do you want me to share a little bit about mine? And that little nugget? Okay, I want to just give you a little nugget to watch this or to read this. So one, I give 2 of them, but one of the little nuggets that I use is the disc. I'm just going to be honest, guys. It's going to be real. So this was just about 4 years ago that we took the disc again. And I realized that we speak differently. My husband speaks think to speak, and I speak to think. Okay. So my husband mulls it over, thinks of it, researches it, digests it. Then he tells me about it. He's done with the conversation. I'm like, wait, I want to know, like, why did you think this? And how did you come up with this? And he always thought, I'm being real, this is my authentic self. He used to be like, wait a second, you don't trust me? What are you judging? What do you think? Like he thought I was attacking him. And I'm like, no, I'm just talking out loud. When we took the DISC assessment, we realized, wow, this is what we've been not agreeing with so much. He thought I was attacking him and questioning him. But now he knows that when I ask a question, I'm being a little bit more dramatic. But he goes, okay, ask me the question. I'm ready. He's like ready for me to ask the question because he knows that's how I think. I think out loud. Sometimes I still have to remind him, but I'm like, honey, Remember, I'm just thinking out loud. You don't have to answer everything I say. But that was the big thing. So that was huge. If opposites attract usually in a marriage, but you have to find out what is your personality and behavior, what is his personality and behavior or hers, and then come together and understand it so you can communicate and connect better.
I love that. First of all, congratulations, 37 years. Amazing. I love that. And that opposites do attract, because I can tell you that my wife and I, in so many ways, are the absolute complete opposite. And what works so well is that everything that she's really good at, I don't like or want to do, especially since we're business partners. We just complement each other so well. Sometimes that method of communication or the way that I think to speak or speak to think, like sometimes we're not. So I get that. I'm listening to that. And I'm like, huh. All right. I'm gonna be a little bit more mindful of that as we have conversations. But I would love to read this book as well. So where can we get this book?
Okay, this one is on Amazon too, and I will have to tell you, you have to get the book, because my other secret sauce, the first 7 years of my marriage, there was like something's not right, and I share the other tip in the book that you have to go get. But this can be on Amazon too. So
okay, perfect. And when we're done with our conversation, if you can help us by dropping a link in the comments, so we have a direct link to that book, that would be fantastic.
Okay, cool. I will find that
Sometime
out. Yes.
later.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll do that. All right. So let's talk about Maxwell Leadership. How did you get involved?
I've always been intrigued by him. I always knew who he was because of just that, I guess, that leadership in me. And so I don't even really remember how I first got to know him or hear about him, but I just did, maybe because I've always been like on social media and YouTube and stuff. Might even been from Brendan Burchard, might have been through him. But anyway, I did get to know him. And when I did, I was just fascinated. And I'm thinking, oh, I would love to I am a knowledge junkie. Seriously. I didn't even put it all on there. I have 3 more certificates. I'm a knowledge junkie. And so I wanted to get certified. And without broadcasting it to the whole world, but it might be, is I was waiting for his thing to go on sale when I first started as a coach, not making all the money that I am now. And so I'm like waiting for it to go on sale. I'm like, yes, I'm doing it. And that's when I started. So that's how it began.
Well, you're a self-proclaimed knowledge junkie, but at the same time, I mean, you practice what you preach. You take what you're learning and you're actually applying it into your business and into your coaching. So, but I get that, in the martial arts industry, we have, conventions and seminars and events, and there's people that go to every single one. Number one, there's a lot of people that go to them and I watch them and they're not writing notes. They're not taking things down. And even in just this short time with you here today, as you see me looking down, it's because I'm jotting down notes and I'm taking notes on things that I'm learning. And so I see that a lot, where people are collecting information collectors, but they're just not really doing anything with it. And if you're doing that, in my opinion, that's a huge waste of really valuable time. If you're going to sit in an hour seminar and then you're going to walk away from that and never use that information, that hour could have been spent doing something else, right? Something more productive. So, but to your point, being a knowledge junkie and applying that knowledge is a totally different game. So your experience being part of the Maxwell Leadership Team, I have had, so many guests on here that have been in the Maxwell training and have such a great experience, a positive experience, life-changing experiences. Tell me a little bit more about it.
Well, I've been to 2 IMCs. I haven't been to each one or every one, but it is life-changing because you're building relationship, you're building connection. And I believe the only way that you're going to grow your business is when you collaborate with others, when you partner with others. And I love that about him because he's always encouraging that. But it's just, he's got so many tools to take you to the next level in your business, in your mind, and everything. And so not only looking, reading the books, but he's all over social media. So you can find him everywhere. Even if you just want a minute with John Maxwell, you're going to learn something, So it's all about whatever, like you said, Jason, whatever you learn, apply it. So many people write like like here's like notebooks of notes, but make sure that you apply that, look over it again. And I always like kind of highlight each couple pages of what the topic is so I can go right to that. But it's so important to really take the material, apply it, use it, outline that book, and now go use it and teach it. And that's one way of doing it. So he's just gives so much information on every aspect. And if you want to grow in anything, he's got coaches every day for something, whether you want to do speaking, whether you want to do life coaching, whether you want to do business coaching, they're all there. It's just, are you going to dive deep, get help, get mentored, and use it?
Mm-hmm. Sometimes my staff or my family, they can always tell when I've been, in a deep conversation with someone online, or I've gone to a seminar, or I've done special training, because it's like the next dinner conversation, it's, what I learned, and I'm sharing these lessons. Again, my kids love to make fun of me all the time, because everything Dad says is a lesson. It doesn't matter what I'm saying. There's always some lesson behind it, right, Dad? And I'm like, yes, there's always a lesson behind everything. And then I go to my staff, and we have if I go to a seminar, the very next class we're doing brand new drills, and they're like, where'd that come from? Well, we got to try it out. We got together with some of our instructors and put together an entire packet of drills, and we just spent some time going over these drills. And now I see the instructors trying out the new different drills in their classes, and it's just such a great way. I mean, for me, it's always been that way, because I know, even if I don't know it 100%, but I'm trying to teach it and I'm trying to put it out there, I'm learning it that second time, right?
Yes.
And so it's and then learning my own application, maybe my own spin on each one of those, maybe specific drills, or a business technique, or whatever have you. So,
or get into a mastermind too. I met Dennis, and Dennis said, thanks, Dennis. We met at John Maxwell. Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dennis was holding a mastermind, and I got in his mastermind. And then you talk about books,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a great way to really put it into use. But you say, when you say your kids always laugh because Dad brings a lesson, they might laugh, they might not like it, but having learned a lot from my brothers and sisters is they might not like it now, but when they get older, like, Dad, he was so good. He always taught us those lessons. We didn't want to hear it, but boy, that was the best thing ever. So it's going to come back to you, and they're going to say that we loved it. We loved it.
It has come back already a couple times, because my son, who is 18, is now teaching at a martial arts school, and I hear him teaching sometimes, and I hear my words come through his mouth, and I see him afterwards, and I just kind of wink or smile. I go, uh-huh. And he goes, I know.
All right. So wait, now I got something else to share with you. Okay. So I had a daughter that was very, I don't know, rebellious, and didn't like my things. And she like, oh, that's so stupid. I kid you not, a year later, she was using it. And I'm like, I didn't want to say anything, but I'm like, yes, she's using it, It's so good.
Even when you don't think that there's so many things that, my son has been training, my daughter started training when they were young. So many things they learned when they were really, really little that I didn't even know that they picked up on. And I see these things, which is awesome. I see this in their work ethic, in what they do with school, and what they do in their jobs. And it's just, you think that they're not listening, but they are listening. They're soaking it all in, right?
All the time. Yep. Agree.
So let's talk about being a business strategist. You've moved from the life coaching to being more of a business strategist. Explain what that means and how that transition happened.
Okay, so when I was a life coach, remember, I went from great money to nothing, to nothing, and then started making something, but still struggling. And I tell people I was in the wilderness for 3 years and spent about $80,000 on coaches and courses and all that kind of good stuff, trying to figure out how to be a successful entrepreneur. So then what I did was, once I started getting going and started making the money, and people were like, gosh, I see you all the time on social media. You're on podcasts, you're on TV, you're on radio, and like, you're writing books and you're getting clients. And how are you doing this? And so my coach says, well, if they're asking, there's your new avatar. So I thought, okay, what the heck? So because I spent so much money in doing all the research, I'm thinking, okay, now I need to help people. So that's why I say my mess is my masterpiece now, because I don't want anybody, seriously, Jason, to suffer like I did. I mean, there were times like, God, I knew that you wanted me to do that. And he used to say, I wanted you to feel their pain. So now you can help women. Now I helped men and women. I still will do some one-on-one coaching with men, but there's a culture that I build for women to come so they're not feeling alone. They can come with no makeup. I don't care what they look like, have their kid on their lap, and I want to help them make money. But what happened is that now I get to share with them simple, easy strategies that work. They don't have to try to figure out themselves. Let me help you be the star. Let me help you get that going. Or most of them have already started, but they're just like, oh, I don't know how to really do this entrepreneurship, or I don't really know how to grow. And so now I teach you the strategies, getting very clear on your messaging, your avatar, your niche, your copyright, and then what does that funnel look like from your business to start to finish and launching. And that's how it got started in me being a business coach and a life coach. And I say that, Jason, because you can't do life without business or business without life. Let's just face it. Sometimes they come to me and I'm stuck, I'm struggling. And you know what? It has nothing to do with business. They're struggling because of relationships that are in their life or the
Mm-hmm.
limiting beliefs, right? So that's why I say I'm a business strategist and a life coach, because they go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. Talk about one of your greatest successes as a coach.
My greatest success is someone that came to me and she was in real estate and she was just switching over to another one. She was totally frustrated, was not making the money. A lot of hers was organization, goal setting. She did not have a morning and evening routine. And I just told her the strategies, and then we got into selling, like, how to close a deal. And in 3 months, she went to, I think it was close to 3 million that she made. So it was incredible, the deals that she had already gotten and stuff. So that was probably my biggest success that I was very proud. And she gave me a great testimony, and it was awesome going from just little to mounts. So
Wow.
it
Wow.
wasn't just the money; it was just like, oh my gosh, I now, what'd she say? She says, I'm sure of myself now, and now, gosh, it's such a great. I wake up and I know what I'm supposed to do. I wake up and I know what not only to do, but I've got my goals and everything is set. And so it's that whole strategy of figuring that all out was a
Mm-hmm.
game changer for her.
Yeah. Who is your ideal client?
My ideal client are women of faith, women online entrepreneurs between the ages of 35 and 55 that are coaches, consultants, course creators. That is my niche.
Hmm. All right, cool. Well, I want to share this with the audience so that if you need to contact Laura for whatever reason, if you want to get with her, www.coachlaurawhite.com/5 tips to transform FB for Facebook.
For
Uh,
Facebook.
yeah, go check that out, guys. Click on that link. It's in the comments. And again, if you guys have any questions or comments as we get ready to wrap up here, please drop those as well. Is there anything, Laura, that we haven't touched on that you'd love to share with the audience?
Yes, I would, because everybody always has a signature program and programs, and I do have that. But you know what? I also have something that's very basic that's transforming, and that's my membership called the Prosper and Flourish. You can't find it because it's very private, but it is my membership, and I want to share with ladies that this is so important because, as I shared before, my heart, I don't want any woman to be alone. I want you to get the tips, tricks, and hacks. I want you to be able to grow and scale your business. So this is a community that I have experts coming in. I have Q&A time, and it's a real simple, basic, not out of the reach membership. And if you're interested, let me know at laurawhite360.com. I'll be glad to share it with you, because again, I built this culture and this community where we're all helping each other, cheering each other on, collaborating, partnering, and really connecting with people, with women leaders that are entrepreneurs.
Well, I love that because that's what I love about this podcast is being able to introduce several different guests from different industries and different groups, and we have so many different masterminds out there, different groups that people are part of, and my goal is to try to collaborate with each one of them and help make connections within this group of people. So I love that because we. I know that again in my industry, the martial arts industry is very very interesting because there's a lot of quote unquote competition. There's a lot of jealousy and things of that nature. And I look at it like, man, if we just all collaborate. I was very fortunate to be part of a group, the Martial Arts Industry Association, that brought school owners together, taught them how to run their businesses, taught them how to increase membership, taught them how to retain their members longer, taught them how to service their members better. And that was such an awesome experience for over 10 years of my life that I spent part of this group and also doing consulting for. I think that we just need more of that because we can do so much more together than we can on our own, right? I mean, you can go through life all alone and you can only get so far, right? So
you can go faster together than do it on your own.
Right. There's the quote. That's what I was looking for. So, hey, listen, thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing some valuable information. I love learning a little bit more about your life as well. And I hope that everybody enjoyed watching this, and we'll share it so everybody else can watch it as well. Any closing thoughts, Laura?
Well, I want to thank you so much, Jason, for this time and this opportunity, because I do want to get my message out. I want to thank Gabby and Dennis for being here and giving supplies. I'm sorry I can't reply back because my computer is not working, but my heart's with you. So you have a message, you have a story, you have something that you want the world to see. Let me help you get it out there. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Laura. Well, listen, guys, that's it for today for Master Motivation. Would love to see you guys back next week. And Laura, thank you one more time. Appreciate you.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate you.